Well, we have some breaking news right now. Russian President Vladimir Putin has called Prime Minister Narendra Modi to brief him on his talks with US President Donald Trump on the Ukraine war. This phone call comes ahead of the crucial meeting of US President Donald Trump with European leaders in the White House and also the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Well, India will be keeping close watch as the outcome has big implications for India's tariff and trade deals with the US. Well, the Russian President Vladimir Putin shared his assessment of his meeting with US President Donald Trump in Alaska. Prime Minister Modi underlined India's consistent position for a peaceful resolution of the conflict and asserted India's support for all efforts in this regard. The two leaders also discussed a number of other issues of bilateral cooperation. They agreed to remain in close touch. Earlier, India had also welcomed the Trump-Putin summit itself, calling their leadership in the pursuit of peace highly commendable. The Ministry of External Affairs had said dialogue remains the only way forward and that the world is watching for an early end to the Ukraine-Russia war. Well, the Russian President Vladimir Putin held a telephonic call with the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa as well. And that's the news coming in that the Russian President spoke with the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and briefed Prime Minister Modi of his assessment of the Alaska summit, which took place just a few days ago with the US President Donald Trump. And remember, this crucial phone call between India and Russia comes ahead of the high-stakes meet in Washington today with the European leaders and Trump. For more on this, our Assistant for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibul, is joining us on the phone line. Siddhant, get us up to speed with this crucial phone call between the Russian President Vladimir Putin and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Well, this is the second conversation between the two leaders this month. We know that earlier also both leaders had spoken as well. And the focus, of course, from the Indian side remains on emphasizing on the need for dialogue and diplomacy to resolve the ongoing war in Ukraine. Now, essentially during this conversation, the Russian president briefed the Indian side, the Indian Prime Minister, on the Alaska summit and the outcomes essentially in terms of how the meeting with the American President Donald Trump went. And this conversation, of course, coming just hours before the US President meets President Zelensky and European leaders in the White House. But India, of course, has been an important partner for Russia and vice versa as well. But what has been the big geopolitical concern for New Delhi is increased tariffs and, of course, the threat of tariff from the US President Donald Trump, who has imposed almost not only 25% tariffs, but additional 25% tariff, which are secondary tariffs or also sanctions for importing Russian energy. Now, many have been highlighting that it is dual standard itself. First, in the count of how there hasn't been any sanctions on China. And second, we saw at the Alaska summit, the Russian President Vladimir Putin pointing out that how Trump administration has increased trade with the Russian side. So essentially what is the thought process of Donald Trump is something it looks very hypocritical, but India, being steadfast with its partnership with Russia, is going ahead not only in terms of energy, the import of Russian energy continues, but also in terms of defense, also in terms of the increased people-to-people interaction. So essentially an important conversation, a conversation that also perhaps in many ways focuses on the upcoming visit of the Russian president to India for the annual India-Russia summit.
You rightly mentioned this is the second conversation between both the leaders. The first took place on August 8th. That's after Trump imposed additional 25% tariffs on Indian goods. Prime Minister Modi also said that apart from discussing Putin's assessment of the Alaska summit, there was also a lot of focus on bilateral cooperation with a view to further strengthen the special and privileged strategic partnership between New Delhi and Moscow. Tell us more on that.
Well, India-Russia bilateral relationship is not only historic but has several pillars, whether it's energy, which has been one of the key pillars since 2022, whether it is defense. Russia has been an important partner of India. We know the the S-400s played an important role when it comes to thwarting the Pakistani attack on India after the launch of Operation Sindhur, or whether it is focused on increasingly connectivity, whether it is through north-south transport corridor that connects Mumbai with Moscow through Iran, but also through the Chennai-Vladivostok connectivity project. So there are several pillars. Focus is also on increased people interaction as well. Russia is working on visa-free issues. Essentially, these are issues that are being taken care of, or perhaps will be announced very soon. In fact, many Indian students go to Russia for medical education as well. So these are pillars that both sides have been continuously working on, and do expect during the President of Russia, President Putin's visit to India, there will be big shot announcement on how to take forward this relationship in all space possibly, and also at the United Nations Security Council as well, where Russia has been playing an important role in terms of making sure that there is no Pakistani mischief, but also supporting India's bid to be a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, a reformed United Nations Security Council.
Right, Siddhant, thanks for getting us up to speed on that. And of course, a crucial conversation between the Russian President and the Indian Prime Minister ahead of the high-stakes meeting in Washington, D.C. between Trump, Zelensky and the European leaders.